I want to talk about how every word that God speaks is law. So it's really interesting because Sir Isaac Newton, he was alive and thriving during the time of the golden years of science, when we had the most organic or original discoveries that are actually mathematically, you could literally it's put in formula form. You literally put pen to paper and actually find the formula, find gravity in a formula. You could find the law of motion in a formula. You can, these things actually could be seen and touched and were extremely tangible mathematically. So I believe that he had a beautiful mind. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie or what that means, but I guess you could say touched by God in the mind, a gifted person on purpose so that we could see God's word actually being, when God says the word gravity, and Sir Isaac Newton sees a formula. You throw something in the air, it comes back down. It's like it's a law, and every word God speaks is a law, right? So I would equate the law of gravity to you reap what you sow. I would equate what Newton's first law, which is what's in motion stays in motion. I would say all forces of darkness cannot stop what God has ordained. And you can really see the inspiration. You can pull through, like Sir Isaac Newton said, the thumbprint alone would convince me of God's existence. You can see Sir Isaac Newton say, I can do the calculations of the movements of the planets and the stars, but I can't tell you how they got up there. This is all his way of saying he believed in God. And this was during the time when these scientists believed God to be God and themselves not to be God. That their job was like a baby reaching out to, the mobile above their head. Somebody else put it there and their job was to do the math on it, that they didn't believe themselves just because they could do the math of gods. They didn't think themselves gods because they could do the math, or because they were able to put their name to the formula. That means that they had not just discovered it, but also created it, right? So they gave God his glory that he deserved. And this is these types of folks like Sir Isaac Newton are the people who inspired me to want to know more about theology. And I could see a character deep within them that was beyond just them being clever guys or theological, scientifically inclined, that definitely look nothing like the scientists of today. And there is a distinct difference. There is a reason why they look and act differently. So I'm going to talk about the quadratic formula and about the continuum. And so when you throw something up and it comes back down, you reap death. You sow death, you reap death. You go to a clinic, you decide to remove what God has ordained, you decide to deface a stone that God has written the truth into. He said, my plans for your life is such. He wrote it in stone, and in order to erase it, you can't use an eraser, you have to deface it. In order to stop the train which God has ordained, you have to choose death. You have to stand in front of the train, right? And people don't realize it because it's a spiritual train. And we are already in death, so how much worse can it get? A lot worse. And so it causes these, if we really care about these women, if we really care about their condition, we would know that a large percentage of them, 80%, suffer mental illness. A large percent of them cannot have babies after these procedures. If we really loved women the way we claim we did, we wouldn't sponsor clinics that help perpetuate their abuse. We wouldn't sponsor these clinics that remove their absolute potential, because they're also not erasing they're erasing two different lives. The lives that God ordained them to lead via the new life of this child, which a new life within you was born through this child, but also it removes the child's life too. So it's actually two lives, and then of course it pulls you that much further away from Christ. So with the quadratic formula, you could put any kind of letters in there. M for me, U for you, a lowercase g for God, or you could put J in there, a big J in there for Jesus. And it creates, this is actually what the quadratic formula looks like on a XY axis. Actually looks like this, right? So this is the opposite of gravity. So gravity looks like that, right? And then here's the quadratic formula, which is right here. and it goes like this. And what people don't realize about things that are on these graphs is that they're on a continuum. They continue past the page. So when you're doing math, you go, oh, well, the page has ended. It means the number's gone, or this line has stopped. Actually, it goes on and on past. It's assumed it's going to keep going and going and going in the direction in which it was pushed. Kind of like if you're out in outer space and you push something, it just keeps going until the end of the universe. So that's how that works. Okay, so there's a negative effect. We talked about the negative effect. You take away your absolute potential that God has ordained for you. And it also means that whatever path you're on is going to be a lot darker and not the ordained path. Unless, of course, you come back to Jesus Christ, who is the rock, who will fix it. And, of course, all of us need Jesus. And at some point, everybody has defaced some type of life rock in their life, right? So I want to talk about the continuum and the positive, right? So there has been choices that people make by the millions every day to choose death, but there has been a few people I've noticed who chose life, and they were in my life at one time, and there's a few different people like this. And they had an effect, not just on their own life and the way their life went, but they also had an effect on anybody who watched and saw how they did this. So when they chose to have a child, there's people who will choose to have a stillborn, because for them, not ever being able to see that child's face is harder than choosing never to see their face. I don't want to go through this process. It's easier not to go through the process, but then I don't get to see that. I'm not going to meet that person. I don't have a face to connect to. I know when there was a family who only had a few hours with their baby, we had abstract pictures of them holding, their cute little hands, and I remember seeing that, and I remember the effect it had, and it affected me on a continuum. And I know everybody who saw that and said these people chose life, even for a few hours, they got to see that baby. They got to say a prayer over that baby, and they got to bless that baby for those few hours. That baby came into the world, just like all of our children given to us on loan. And they, unlike a lot of us can't guarantee. We try. We like to entertain the idea we can guarantee that we can give our children back knowing Jesus Christ. But at the end of the day, they grow up and they can make their own decisions. But these babies who come to the world and they're here only a few hours, they're handed right back to God in full tact. Be given, everything that they need. Loving parents for those few hours. Not everybody in life is guaranteed that. But they're guaranteed that. And there's something about that hit me on a continuum. When I was pregnant with my child, I would think back to that. And I would think, I'm going to follow this through. Because I had a lot of, health issues, and I have a heart defect. And for some reason, abortion was on a doctor's tongue, like they were handing me a lollipop on the way out of the clinic. And I've never understood that. But I remember the positive effect that had on that, the type of fortitude that took, the type of bravery that took, and how unique and different and rare that was, and how that child was guaranteed something not everybody is guaranteed. Full attention for that whole time, a prayer, a blessing, and guaranteed back into the arms of God. And it had a very positive effect on a continuum. And it grew life on exponentially. It exponentially grew life on a continuum for everybody and anybody who saw that. There's something about that act that was more powerful, those actions that were more powerful than anything anybody could ever tell you about formulas. And but that can also go the other way, and so instead of it going like this, it can also go like this. And you can guarantee to be in the X and Y axis and suffer things like depression, regret, things that you can never fix unless, of course, it's through Jesus. And only through him comes that healing. Only through him can you change the formula. Only through him. Anything else cannot change the formula, and only then does it change course. It's a lot like sending up a bowling ball in the air and getting surprised it doesn't come back down on you. You push death out, you receive death back. You reap what you sow. That is a law. Every word that God speaks is law. And I know every word we say will be held accountable for. How much more will our actions? So this is Linda of Christ is King Forever. I really hope this got to the point. I really hope this got to the heart of it, because, I don't know, I felt it on my spirit today that why do people take the law of gravity so seriously, knowing good and well you have reaped, I have too, I've reaped positive things from doing positive things. I've reaped bad things from doing bad things. I mean, do we need a math book to tell us? What is in motion stays in motion. What God has ordained, nobody can stop. Like, yes. And any time I've ever tried to interfere with that or change course or step out of God's will, I felt it. So, I hope this message in the bottle reaches somebody and helps you on the path to knowing Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. That is the agenda. So, may God be with you.